Liam's with us now in the studio, back from Aberdeen. More strikes to come?
There are going to be more strikes to come. You've got Unite, a trade union that oversees, represents lots of offshore workers, talking about a tsunami of strikes to come. And it's built on the perception that North Sea oil and gas companies are making lots and lots of money. Well, they are making some money, but 75% of that money is now going directly to the government, where it was just 40% less than a year ago. And my sense, having spent time in Aberdeen, is that you've got a lot of people there who have invested lots of money over many, many years, and because the tax regime keeps changing and changing a lot, they're not investing any more. And so you're going to end up with 75% of nothing rather than 40% of something. And that is the danger.
Aberdeen used to be the economic powerhouse of Scotland.
It's the third biggest city. It is the oil and gas capital of Europe. I mean, there are folk doing stuff in the oil and gas industry in Aberdeen that is literally world-leading. We're only producing, less than 1 million barrels of oil a day now. At the peak, North Sea Oil was producing 3 million barrels a day. So we are now a net energy importer. But those oil barrels that we produce every day, they're crucial to our energy security. And there's now a move by Hamza Youssef, the Scottish First Minister, whereas previously the SNP lionised the British oil and gas industry.
Well, they said it was Scottish.
Scotland's oil, this is the basis for our prosperity and our independence. A lot of oil industry operatives feel that the SNP is giving the industry the cold shoulder now because Hamza Youssef wants to make Aberdeen the net zero capital of the world. Now, I've got another special report coming up on that, a little film like the one I just did, and we'll be releasing that early next week. But there's a lot of scepticism among locals whose families have had good jobs over a couple of generations now in the oil and gas industry.
That's because, of course, the SNP, we shouldn't forget, are enthralled to the Green Party.
Of course, they're in coalition with the Greens.
Coalition together.
That's right, that's right. So it strikes me that this is a major part of our economy. There are jobs in net zero, in producing wind farms, producing hydrogen, carbon capture and storage. It's a big question to me if there are nearly as many jobs as there are in oil and gas. Oil and gas is employing 25,000, 30,000 people in Aberdeen alone, 200,000 people across Scotland and the rest of the UK. The net zero stuff is about massive bits of kit, massive capital projects, and not so much labour. So I'm concerned for people in the oil and gas industry. Yes, they can transition to net zero and the green energy industry. Of course they can, but I'm not sure there'll be nearly as many jobs.
We wanted to talk to you yesterday, Liam. I'm so glad you've come in today because there was this story yesterday about these benefits handouts, these increases. Just to explain a little bit to us what people are going to be receiving. Well,
people can see... I did talk yesterday afternoon after your show about that, and people can see that clip on the GB News website or on GB News Twitter. But basically, it's households on universal benefit and some other benefits. I've listed the benefits. Will be getting 300 odd quid automatically to their bank accounts between now and the 17th of May, and then there'll be another £300 in the autumn and another £300 in the winter. These are one-off additional payments to help with the cost of living crisis. These payments were much bigger last year. They were more like 1,200, 1,500 quid. So they're less than they were, but they're there to help with energy payments, with food bills for the vulnerable, and there are special additions to the additions for some pensioners and also some people on disabilities.
Is it about 8 million people will receive that?
Well, 8 million odd people are on universal benefit or are on the other benefits which qualify you for these additional payments. If you are eligible, there's nothing that you need to do. This money will appear automatically in your bank account. If you think you might be eligible, the best advice I've got is go to Citizens Advice. Because they are a fabulous, what we call third sector organisation, a very, very reputable charity who will look at your case and give you clear, on-your-side advice about whether or not you might be eligible.
You're the numbers man. How much is that going to cost the taxpayer?
It's going to cost...
say it's the government, it's the taxpayer paying for this.
We're talking about single-digit billions of pounds, so it's quite a lot of money, but this is something that Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt pledged would happen. It's worth saying, Andrew, that the borrowing numbers that were out yesterday weren't nearly as bad as the Office for Budget Responsibility said.
They get it wrong all the time.
They would be. Why? Because they constantly overestimate what the government's going to spend and they constantly underestimate the amount of tax revenue and jobs, frankly, that are entrepreneurial for the most part, our dynamic British economy is generating.
So if we're not borrowing as much, why can't we cut taxes now?
That is the pressure that Jeremy Hunt's under. You might have seen the front page of the FT yesterday where they said, Jeremy Hunt says tax is too high. That was in response to questioning from me. I was pressing him in a huddle of journalists on why aren't you cutting taxes? And he knows he's under pressure from the 1922
Is he waiting to put it in an electioneering period?
That's exactly what he's doing. He's saying we can get the tax burden down, tax as a share of GDP by growing GDP. All right, if you want to go GDP, why are you raising corporation tax from 19 to 25%? I heard a lot about that in Aberdeen, let me tell you. And not just from the oil and gas industry. But I think in the main, you're right, Bev, they are waiting for the tax cut to come just before the general election, which will probably be next autumn. But between now and the local elections in early May, they're trying to change the narrative, saying that the UK economy is recovering, don't squander it, don't let Labour ruin it, things are getting better. Business surveys, consumer sentiment surveys, they are inching forward, they are improving, but we've still got a cost of living problem.
More people are being taken into tax this month because of the freezing of the thresholds.
That's right.
More people.
Right, thanks, Liam. Brilliant as always.